Good afternoon. My name is Kurtis with Light Pole Systems. We manufacture a range of products specializing in light pole solutions. We solve common industry problems in the exterior lighting maintenance industry. Some of our products include anchor bolt adapters to correct misaligned anchor bolts, universal locking handhole covers to prevent copper wire theft and vandalism, pole repair kits to repair rusted light poles, as well as cone and decorative base covers to prevent a watertight seal around your light poles, as well as bring a high-class look to your property. We also make a full line of custom and standard light poles, fitters, fixture mounts, pretty much any light pole accessory you can think of. A lot of the following information comes from what we hear from our customers, as well as over 45 years of combined experience in the exterior lighting maintenance industry, as well as inspecting light poles for municipalities and school districts such as LAUSD. An overview of what we're going to talk about is essentially, why do we care about light poles as part of an energy efficient retrofit? The short story is it's an excellent way to increase profit for the contractor. It increases the scope of work. It allows you to find new jobs, as well as more work from existing customers and new customers, as well as opening a new profit center. What we're going to do is include light poles as part of the sales pitch and ROI calculations for an energy efficient retrofit. We're going to use retrofits to sell light poles, as well as finding bad light poles as a new way to sell light fixtures. Again, we'll put the pole repair into the ROI calculations, and we'll do everything as part of a capital expense. Looking at the light poles themselves, the contractor benefits to all this is, of course, you're going to limit your liability as an exterior lighting maintenance contractor. If you come out and install light fixtures on poles, and then the pole is already rusted, the pole comes down in 6 months, that customer is going to come right back to you and say, why did my pole fail? You were the last one to touch it. So by at least taking a look at the poles, it allows you to come to your it allows you to come to your customer and say, and show them the problem that they probably didn't know they had. And that removes the burden from you of having to repair these poles in the future. That same note is an excellent backdoor to sell more product, be it more light poles or light pole repair. We'll go in detail on this in just a moment. The next contractor benefit would be a pre-job inspection. Now, not only finding the bad poles ahead of time, this is also going to allow you to catch any problems before you get to the job. For example, halfway through the project, what was a direct mount light fixture is now a tenon mount light fixture, so you're going to need adapters. The next benefit would be employee safety. It does happen where light poles actually come down in the middle of an installation, simply based on the small trauma of installing a light fixture. And of course, this will increase your profitability on jobs. Again, you won't have costly delays because you have to go out and get a tenon adapter, or now all of a sudden the light pole is bad and you can't install the rest of your light fixtures. Finally, it's an excellent way to generate new business. If you show up to a customer site, everyone's already told them about reducing their energy costs. No one comes to them and say, hey, we can reduce your liability, and by the way, we can pay for it all using capital expense. It doesn't have to be a maintenance expense. From the property owner's standpoint, one of the biggest benefits, again, is limiting liability. A quick example of this would be McDonald's. McDonald's had one pole fall on a car with a family inside. Luckily, no one was hurt, but lawyers got involved, McDonald's was sued, and after the lawsuits, McDonald's lawyers spent years replacing poles, footings, for simple things like minor surface cracks in the dry pack or simple paint flaking. Mostly cosmetic issues, but because they didn't catch it ahead of time, they spent way more money than they needed to replacing perfectly good light poles and entire footings. The next benefit would be lowering emergency costs. Of course, planned maintenance is always more cost effective than emergency maintenance. And from the contractor's standpoint, planned scheduled maintenance is probably more profitable than replacing a light pole at 2 a.m. on a random Tuesday. And finally, converting a maintenance cost to capital investment. From the owner's perspective, they often have capital expense budgets that are normally larger than the maintenance budgets, and allow them to use that money a little bit more freely once they know it's a capital expense. For example, an energy efficient LED upgrade is an obvious capital expense, where replacing a light pole may be a maintenance. If you can combine new light poles, installation of those new light poles with installation of those new fixtures, that entire project becomes a capital expense, and we'll talk about a few examples of that here in just a minute. The first one would be a retail center close to us in Southern California. They had 38 light poles, 55 light fixtures. They knew of one pole that had come down, but they didn't really know or care about the condition of the 37 others. They had the project scheduled to install, the fixtures were purchased, and the job was ongoing. Before the contractor came on site and actually started installation, they walked through the rest of the property and found that of those 37 remaining light poles, a couple were ready to come down right now, and the rest were ranging from pretty bad to probably come down in the next year or two. Unfortunately, that canceled the entire project because there just wasn't budget for it, and the property owner was not going to put new fixtures on bad poles. After combining all the data, putting the pole repairs with the energy efficient upgrade, qualified the entire project as a capital expense and got the entire project funded within a few months rather than within the next fiscal cycle. At the end of the day, the owner saw a much higher value by bundling the repair and the upgrade. The contractor increased their profit and opened a new profit center. After the project is complete, this customer is now looking to have the rest of their properties in the area inspected, and we expect to see a very similar project along the rest of the properties in the area. We do have the specific ROI payback information available. Comment below if you have any questions or give us a call and we can discuss that in more detail. The next project would be a national hotel chain. This project started close to us with one pole that came down. We were brought on site to inspect the rest of the poles on the property. There were a total of 6 poles. One of them had come down. The other 5 were marginal, needed to be repaired or replaced. After working on site, we noticed that the old HID lights hadn't been replaced. So after looking at the parking lot lights, building floods, and a few other area lights on the property, we combined the entire project together and were able to fund both the pole repairs and the new fixtures, all as part of a capital expense, again, which funded within a few months rather than scheduling in the next year's maintenance cycle. This one site turned into its inspecting the rest of the properties across the country, which found just about $3.5 million of repairs and LED upgrades, all from just over $100,000 worth of light pole inspections. Again, if you have any questions about the specific ROI numbers of this project, comment below or give us a call and we'll have that discussion. Moving on to the sales side of energy efficient upgrades, we always look at the before and after of what the property is going to look like. Here's your lighting before and after. Here's your energy use before and after. We want to look at the same thing with the light poles. Here's the maintenance cost of a damaged light pole, replacing it at 2 a.m. on Tuesday versus the maintenance cost of replacing your light pole during scheduled maintenance. Before and after, of course, the aesthetics, but also the reduction of liability. We'll move into how to test a light pole, what to look for when you're out doing an energy efficient audit. Now, of course, if you're on site doing an energy audit, add a text field into your audit software to gather the information you need as far as pole height, bolt circle information, color of the light pole, but also condition of the light pole. Simply raise the base cover and check underneath the base cover for any surface rust. It's very common for a light pole to look good right above the base plate because it's commonly painted, but below that base plate is surface rust or flaking structural damage. Moving down below the base plate, we're going to look for dry pack. Dry pack underneath a light pole base plate is the #1 reason a light pole will fail and rust faster than it should. Most engineers call for dry pack, however for a light pole, it is structurally not needed. Correct installation would be with no dry pack underneath the base plate or with a hole in the dry pack, allowing water to get out. Moving down again at the base of the light pole, check for cracks, specifically in the corners of a light pole. This is more commonly found in tall, square poles with welds that start in the corners. The next thing to check would be where is the light pole on the property. Oftentimes poles in planters are going to rust much faster because they're being hit with irrigation and the vegetation helps hold in water and moisture. The next would be poles on walkways or near grass or in grass. In the Southwest, reclaimed water is used, which is highly acidic and will rust poles much faster than standard irrigation water. Or in parks and walkways, dog urine is also a common problem. The next would be bases covered by dirt. Footings should be above grade, preventing the light pole bases from being covered by dirt. Here's a good side-by-side example. Now these two poles were installed on either sides of a soccer field in a park, one in a concrete footing, the other in a concrete footing about 4 inches below grade. So the bottom 4 inches was covered with dirt and debris. Now both of these poles were galvanized, which is the best rust protection you can get, and simply within a few years you can see the base has already started to rust, where the correctly installed pole is great and has no issues. Finally, be sure to check the anchor bolts. It's common for anchor bolts to rust below the base plate of a light pole or between the top nut and the bottom nut. This is a little bit hard to see until the nuts get removed, but be sure to take a look. If you see some surface rust on that anchor hardware, just be prepared to address that in the future, and we'll talk about some specific repairs for this in just a moment. The simple test to inspect a light pole is a hammer and punch test. Just like it sounds, you take a hammer and a punch, set the punch on the base of the light pole, hit it with the hammer, and what we're doing here is we're seeing how hard the metal is. Of course, if it dents or if the punch goes right through the light pole, that's a problem, but we're listening for the sound that it makes. If it rings like a bell, that metal is good and strong. If it thuds like you're hitting concrete, that's indicative of soft metal and there's more problems going on. So start by hitting about 1 inch up from the base plate and hit the pole, moving up from the base plate until you hear good ringing, and repeat this on all 4 sides of the pole. If you see exterior rust, start there. Now on our YouTube channel, we do have a good video of this sound, and check the description for links to this video. The next more detailed inspection is an ultrasonic inspection. This is a more detailed and analytical inspection that provides more data for corporate managers to approve these repairs. Now, a good tech can normally look at a light pole and either using a hammer and punch or simply by lifting the base cover know if the pole is good or if it's damaged and need to be repaired. But the advantage of the ultrasonic inspection is that analytical data. Now there are third-party companies that do nothing but ultrasonic inspections, and we do have some customers that have started to do ultrasonic inspections as a new profit center. Now this is a much more labor-intensive report than simply a hammer and punch test or a quick visual inspection, and it really should be a profit center for the contractor. Now this does 2 things. This incentivizes the contractor to make a good, reliable report that can stand on its own without needing the profit of repairing the poles. Charging for the report really makes the customer value the report more than just a free audit. Now finally, if you're on site being paid for an ultrasonic inspection, when you're there, take that time to do the energy retrofit audit. That way at the end of the day, you can provide your customer with a report of their damaged light poles, as well as a way to pay for it using the energy efficient upgrade. Moving on how to fix some of these common problems, we'll start with surface rust at the base of the light pole. Now if it's just exterior surface rust with a small amount of paint flaking off, that's perfectly fine. If you've got metal chunks flaking off or pitting in the metal thicker than the thickness of the coating, that's a structural issue and needs to be addressed. But if it is just surface rust, clean the exterior of the pole with a wire wheel and an angle grinder and paint it with a good rust encapsulating paint. We also recommend painting the inside of the pole with a good rust encapsulating paint. Now this one's a little bit harder to clean the inside of the pole, but it's good to coat it. We recommend Rust Doctor as well as Eastwood's internal frame coating. Now the internal frame coating is an aerosol can with about a 12-inch nozzle that works really well to get inside that light pole. The next is rusted or damaged anchor bolts. The first solution would be drilling and epoxying in new anchor bolts, and this can be done by adding additional holes to your base plate to drill and epoxy new anchor bolts, or abandoning the old anchor bolts and installing new anchor bolts entirely. The next option would be our thread extenders. The solution would be to cut the existing anchor bolt off below any damage and then install the new light pole on top of the thread extender as new anchor bolts. If the pole is damaged and needs to be repaired or replaced, the couple options are our pole repair kits, which install in about half an hour You don't need a crane or welder on site, and these are designed to be a permanent solution and install when the poles are still standing. If you do have a mobile crane with a mobile welder, the next solution would be to cut and weld the pole. Now this is to remove the light pole, cut the base plate off, weld the new base plate on, paint it, stand the poles back up. Of course, installing new energy efficient fixtures while you're doing that. If you don't have a mobile crane or mobile welder, then the next solution would be to install a new light pole, again with new LED heads. To wrap everything up, why do we care about light poles as part of the energy efficient upgrade? Poles are often overlooked, and it's an excellent way to differentiate yourself as an exterior maintenance contractor from everyone else who's just trying to sell energy efficient upgrades. It's going to protect your liability as the contractor, and you're going to show the customer liability that they didn't know they had. You can simply turn a maintenance expense into a capital expense and allow larger projects to be funded out of a different pool of money. You can increase your profitability on a job by finding any issues ahead of time and adding new work to existing jobs, finding new work from existing clients, as well as new clients with a whole new profit center. And finally, pole inspections are an excellent way to get paid to do that energy efficient audit. Comment below if you have any questions. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more. Sign up for our newsletter for more videos like this. Visit us online at lightpolesystems.com and give us a call at 714-786-8983 for more info. Light Pole Systems, specializing in light pole solutions.